The secret weapon to sales in the art world is getting in their house. All right, hey everybody, thanks for watching the channel. Today we are going to be tuning in, talking about what the best method to monetize your specific art would be, okay? First off, getting clear on what it is that you do and what you're going to try to monetize. You know, is it your animations? Is it sketches or drawings? Is it paintings, pottery, sculptures, whatever it is that you do that you really want to make some money with? Getting clear on how to go about that and what market you're going to tap in to make these sales with that specific subject or medium. So I'm going to try and stay on point here. Yeah, so getting clarity on what market and what your ideal customer, who your ideal customer is. You know, like if you're selling original art like I do, you want to go after the affluent, wealthy art collector, okay? And you got to think, you know, 95% of people who are going to look at your art are not going to be your customer. So it's important not to take everyone's feedback at that point. And just, you got to know that it's a very small bucket percentage-wise of the population that are actually going to be your customer. And, you know, if you're selling original art, typically the best method that I have found to sell original art is always in person. A lot of these other methods that we're going to go over, most of these are online, and you can still sell original art online too, don't get me wrong, but it's easier to convert high ticket items in person. That's what I've found to be true, at least. Let's see. So like the other buckets though, really quick, let's go through it. So original art, if that's your thing, cool. If not, and say you do sketches or animations or whatever it is your ideal customer more like a student, you know, somebody that's in college or something like that? And you got to think, like, what budget does this demographic have to spend on things like merch or art, whether it's a print or a t-shirt, a coffee mug. There's like a million different things. It could be, you get it. The list goes on with that. So depending on what your subject matter is going to depend, it's going to dictate which market you go after. I'll try to explain that a little better. So yeah, you've got original art, you've got retail and merch, and then you've got prints and reproductions. And also keep in mind, you can do multiple of these things, especially when you're figuring it out, trying to figure out what's going to get traction. Try them all. And then at the bottom, I put licensing deals. This is more advanced, of course, but I'm gonna tell you a couple little tips on how to get licensing deals, okay? And that might be, you know, you might not be selling all the rights to your art, but you might sign a deal for a contract with a vendor, like a commercial project. Say it's like a hotel or something, and they need 100 prints of this specific painting. So you would create a contract for X number of prints in this medium for this set price, but you still retain ownership of your copyright, okay? There's a lot of different ways to structure licensing deals. Anyway, I'm kind of going backward here. So anyway, original art. In person is always going to be the best way to sell original art at volume, I believe. I don't know, I might be wrong, but it's definitely true for me in my business, so I'm going to teach this. Okay, so say you sell original art, but you're in some really small town where there's not a lot of wealthy individuals. Well, you need to get out of that market. You need to go to a city somewhere, you know, like say, let's take for instance, I live in the state of Florida. I'm up in the Panhandle, but the state of Florida is a big state. You know, there's a lot of different sections that where the affluent, wealthy art collector might reside, okay? One of those locations is Miami. Okay, Miami is a big city, a lot of really cool people, really cool art. And, but another thing about Miami is there is a lot of poverty in Miami, a lot. You go a little bit further north and hit somewhere like Boca. Boca is basically like all wealthy people. So the percentage of traffic that you might encounter in Boca is going to be a higher percentage of your customers if you're selling original art, that is. So for instance, say you do like art festivals, okay? And you see one in Boca, you sign up for it. Or there's a lot of cities where you're going to find really great venues for art festivals, but trying to stick with ones in cities and areas that have a higher percentage of wealth is going to be a good method when you're trying to figure out your market. And once you figure it out, once you're starting to gain traction in a few markets and building some relationships, you can tap deeper into that and try to plug in to that market, and expand your network, essentially. Okay, so let's get into some of these other methods. Let me find my water. So like, say you're an aspiring artist and you haven't really sold your work before. It's hard to make your first sale. You almost just have to like do whatever it takes to sell your first piece. I mean, you can give your art away at first just to get some of your art in people's houses and take some photos and stuff like that. But whatever you have to do to close your first sale, it's not about the money. It's about having confidence in yourself to say, oh, I've sold my art before, You've got some track record, you've got some skin in the game, you know what it is, you've got a little more experience than you had before. So that's great. If you haven't sold any art though, maybe you get into retail, selling merchandise. There's a lot of really great software out there. I think one of them is called like Printify, where you can make an account, plug in some of your images, and it gives you like a plethora of different things that you can print your work on, and it drop ships. You never have to like deal with the fulfillment of the product. So do your own research there, dig in, and see what works for your art. If you don't put yourself out there though, you're not going to sell shit. That's just how it goes. You've got to at least put yourself out. You have to. And it's okay. If they talk shit or they don't like your art or they give you crappy feedback, that's all right. Let them do it. Still, put yourself out and continue to iterate and get better and get better and get better. So, you might fail a few times, but failure equals growth when you push through. So, enough about that. Prints and reproductions. It's also more of a volume game, kind of like the retail and merch. You can sell in person also at events, but this is something that you can scale online. Depending on your price point, what I find is people will drop like $1,000 or less online shopping for art, but you start going over $1,000, $2,000, it gets a little more, it gets trickier to navigate. It just does. And that's all right. I say this all the time. The secret weapon to sales in the art world is getting in their house. If you can get the artwork in their house, you're basically going to close a deal, whether it's the piece you brought in or another piece. Anyway, watch our previous videos to learn more about that. But in person is always great, but online, this is where you're going to really need to focus on online presence and your digital marketing efforts, putting yourself out there on your website, on your social media platforms, and give different variations too. Say you have an image. Instead of just offering it in one size, offer it in many different sizes. I would say don't go too crazy with that, because you give somebody too many options, they can't make up their mind. That's just the way it is. You got to treat people, we're humans, right? We were all children at one point. So that mindset of like, A or B versus A, B, C, D, E, F, like you have all these options, it's harder to make up your mind. But if you can just break it down to the A and B, it's way simpler to make a decision and move forward at that point. I definitely think you should have more than just two options, but like for sizing, but don't go too crazy is what I'm saying. And so let's talk about licensing deals. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this sort of thing. I don't have a ton of experience in licensing deals personally. I like to, so art consulting firms, There's a couple firms that represent me and my work in the Southeast market. One is DAC, they're out of Atlanta. And basically the way that they structure their deals, they also sell original art, or like commission pieces and custom art, as I like to call it, but the majority of their business is reproduction. They also have a sister company that's like their print company. And a lot of these art consulting firms that are larger, they have an affiliate business that does their fulfillment for print and things like that. But not all of them do. But basically, the way I was talking, how some of these contracts are structured, they might reach out to me and say, hey, I have a job where we want to use this piece, Maelstrom, or whatever other piece I have in inventory. We need 20 copies of it in this size. And then you basically just make a deal with them. But it's for a set quantity. You're never like selling your rights completely out to them. Where a lot of licensing deals absolutely can sell your rights to your art, your copyright. But I like to retain ownership personally and just do quantity. There's also like other methods. There's like a ton of different vendors out there. For instance, carpet companies and rug companies, they all have to get their designs from somewhere. A lot of their designers are in-house. If you can find some more like boutique, like higher end companies that you think your work might really fit with their aesthetic, again, tailor it for their aesthetic, or go after vendors that kind of, you can see, what's the word? Complement your work, and go after them, reach out, see how they source their designs. There's so much opportunity out there in the world, but you have to reach out and prospect and put yourself out there, okay? There's other huge names like John Richard Accessories. It's a big furniture company. As you can tell in the name, accessories, John Richard Accessories, they do a lot of business. And there's a local artist here, her name is Mary Hong, and she has a licensing deal with John Richard Accessories. And John Richard, they're all over the country, probably all over the world for that matter, and they sell her embellished reproductions at scale. I don't know what she gets paid, but I know she's not hurting for money, you know. You look at like other companies like Restoration Hardware, that's another really great, like, I mean, obviously those are big names, okay? But there's a lot of potential behind these licensing deals, tons of potential. So, you know, do your own research and kind of like visualize like where would you see your art being a good fit for any of these vendors. Explore, like search online for furniture companies and art companies. There's other websites out there, of course, where you can sell your art, like the copyright licensing type stuff, but I don't really mess with too many of them. I'm trying to think of examples. Anyway, they're out there. Go check them out. If you got value from today's video, make sure you like the video, share it with an aspiring artist that could gain some value from this type of content. If you got questions about anything pertaining to business and art, drop it down below, we'll get to it. And also, make sure you check out the ebook, link down below, The Entrepreneur's Blueprint. This book is gonna teach you how to sell art and how to create your own business with your artwork. It's gonna give you a jump start, and you're gonna be way ahead of the curve. So go get it, and yeah, thanks for tuning in. Come back and see us next time.